Welcome to Ranking Every Commander with the Nitpicking Nerds.
This time we got the Neon Dynasty Commanders and the Neon Dynasty Commander Commanders.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, bringing you daily Commander content. This one being like 2 hours long, I'm guessing. If you want to support us and our daily content adventures along with birthdays, you can go to patreon.com in the description. By the way, happy birthday to everyone whose birthday's today.
Yes, and if you want to support us indirectly, because Patreon is obviously directly, then you go to tcgplayer.com using our affiliate link in the description below. Buy the cards you were going to buy anyway at the same exact price you were going to pay anyway. And guess what? The Nitpicking Nerds get a kickback. I made myself make a weird noise when I did that. Also, you can go to Dragon Shield to do the same thing. Buy the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
They're amazing. We literally use them on every single one of our decks, and we suggest you do the same. If you start with the link again, you're going to be supporting the nerds, and you're paying the same price for those sleeves.
Yes, and if you want to see where these commanders rank or where your commanders rank, we have ranked every commander that exists in all of Magic the Gathering over the years. They're in a Google Doc, which is also in the description.
Yes, moxfield.com, you can go to see our decks. So let's get right into this video.
As with all of the Ranking Every Commander series, we're going to be grading each commander on a scale of 0 to 50, 10 points each for the following categories: power, fun, artwork, coolness, and uniqueness of the card, all of which factor into how playable is this as a commander, what makes this a good commander. Obviously, this is not just a power tier list. That's not the only factor when choosing a commander or liking a commander.
We're going to kind of go quicker through the bottom ones because they're a little less interesting than the top ones. Obviously, that's why they're ranked a little lower, but we're still going to cover them. First, we got Naomi, Pillar of Order, right above Questing Beast and right below Dexos of Meletis. 3 white-black for a legendary creature, Human Advisor, 4/4. Whenever Naomi, Pillar of Order, enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control an artifact and an enchantment, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with Vigilance. The power for this card just isn't there. It's not really something that's going to be too powerful. You're getting like 6 power for 5 mana. That's nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's like a really below par Grave Titan. If you jump through the hoop of having an artifact and enchantment, there's really not much there. So we have to move on to, she's hoping to pick up some points in the other categories. As far as the artwork goes, I feel like it's just kind of middle of the road. It's like your classic CG setting. It doesn't really give me any crazy vibes.
Yeah, with art, the lowest you're really going to see from a newer set is usually a 5. Sometimes there's stuff that like really is bad, but that's rare, and we would talk about that. You're going to see a lot of 5s and ups from here on out.
Right. So generally the art's great for this set. We're not going to spend a ton of time on it, especially since we got 4 other categories. So as far as her lore and her coolness goes, she's a politician, she's ambitious, and she really cares about the people. Her motto is like, oh, hey, I really want to help the people, but why not also help myself and help myself advance? And I realized really quickly that's like a big metaphor. It's like that's the problem with politicians. She's just a regular politician.
Well, you said that's her motto. Like,
yeah, that's what she.
Like her
like
campaign slogan is, "I want to help the people, but first I got to help myself."
Yeah, why don't I get a little bit on the way? It's like, oh boy. And her uniqueness, it's a 2 because there's not much to work with. There's just like not much text on the card that's actually relevant to gameplay.
Exactly. It's how it is fairly unique because the artifact enchantment thing is new, but it's how it applies to gameplay, and it's just not very much.
Right, like if a card said pay 1,000,000 mana, scry 1, the uniqueness is 0 because it's not relevant. All right, continuing on from worst to best, the next card people probably don't even know is legendary. It's Go Shintai of Boundless Vigor, above Cadibri and below Kalemni at rank 1007. All 5 of the shrines let you pay 1 at the end of your turn to get an effect. This one puts a +1/+1 counter on itself for each shrine you have.
For the power on these, they're just going to all rank at a 1. They technically do something, but they're not very powerful. With the rest of the shrines, I won't mention power because they're all the same. It's a 0 for fun because there's just not enough shrines to really do what you want to be doing. So it's just not. It's not a deck you can reliably build with any sort of consistency.
It wouldn't be a deck I recommend someone build in terms of how much power you can get out of it and how much fun you can get out of it. Because if you're really into shrines, why restrict yourself to one color unless you're doing it for the challenge, which then is the fun part. But I think in the gameplay, you're not going to get anything out of this.
This is a 7 for art. All of these shrines, you can see the little shrine, like
the little building, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a Japanese shrine that you would put offerings into, like gods or kamis or whatever, and around them is like a living kami that has. A kami comes and basically lives with the shrine. That's part of the lore.
Yeah, exactly. And none of these shrines are particularly unique. They say shrine, they say enchantment, and they say pay 1 and do stuff. That's where they all come from. So we don't really have to go over that either. But the lore for this, I was surprised, Good job for Wizards. Every single legendary creature has lore for the set, except for one. This one is not that card, though. A monk forced out of a forest by urban expansion built a shrine, planted a seed, it miraculously grew, and then the forest expansion couldn't be stopped. Like if you chop down a tree, that would just grow right back.
Yeah, exactly. If you cut down a tree, the next day you'll go back and there'll be a tree there. It's really cool.
Right, because of the kami in the shrine.
All right, let's move on. The next Ghost Shintai we have is Hidden Cruelty, 1004, above Dorothea and below Gerard Capuchin. This one destroys a creature with toughness less than or equal to the number of shrines you control. Same thing for power, same thing for fun. So going straight to the artwork, it's kind of weird. I don't really know what's going on in this.
It's got a little skeleton, and there's a shrine, and it's like a horse thing, maybe?
Ogre gets kicked out of her village. She's homeless. Not my words. Wizards' words are that it is a homeless ogre. The Kami of Vengeance comes to help when she does like the shrine thing like before, and she gets vengeful and goes and kills the warlord that kicked her out of her home.
And then she snaps out of the trance and feels bad about it.
No, I feel bad now. I killed the guy who was really mean to me.
Next up, it's another Ghost Shintai. This one is of shared purpose at 957 above Traxos and below, spoiler alert, this one gives you a 1/1 colorless spirit for each shrine you control at your end step. Now, this one taught people how to work together and prevent their fields of crops from drowning, and it taught them irrigation.
Yeah, and then it really liked watching people succeed, so it stayed. I think that's really cute, where it's like...
Teamwork.
Yeah, like, I helped you guys, and you're using my powers successfully, and I'm going to stay here and help you. It's like, aw.
And the art, I like this abstract kami stuff, so thumbs up.
Up next, a shocker, but it's a Ghost Shintai above the last one, which was shared purpose, and below, actually a card from an old Kamigawa set, where you say the Falling Star. And this one mills based on the number of shrines you control at the end of the turn. This art's weird. It's like a person suspended in what looks like they're basically wrapped in like a web or something.
It's like a mummy, upside down, floating, with no explanation.
And there's thopters there, too. It's like, it's a really, really strange art.
Yeah, I thought this was the worst shrine because I thought you can only mill opponents, which is just actively good for them and bad for you. But you can just mill yourself, which makes it the best shrine because all of the other ones have such little text, but it's not good enough to make it a 2. And I think as far as the lore goes, Professor sought out the kami, worshipped at the shrine, gave it stuff, and then got all of the knowledge in the universe, but didn't like it because she knew when she was going to die.
Yeah, I mean...
And had it reversed.
It feels like if you get all the knowledge in the universe, can't you make yourself live forever? I feel like that has to be possible.
Maybe...
With all knowledge?
Like... There's definitely some plot hole there, because with all knowledge, I'll be okay.
It feels like you would, but maybe you won't be. Maybe with all knowledge, it's really like everything is really dark and everything's really sad, and it's like it really would depress you. I could see that being the truth. Whereas if you knew everything, it would just depress you.
I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna disagree, and we can move on. Next, at rank number 913, we got the best Ghost Shintai. It's the Ghost Shintai of Ancient Wars, above Krydle and below Kengi. This is the red shrine, and at the end step, it pings each opponent for the number of shrines you control. Artwork's fine. It's just a bunch of blades, and it's like a nice little pattern.
I absolutely love this lore. This is like an evil, mean kami that just likes violence.
Like sick and twisted.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kami of Ancient War, and now it's the Ghost Shintai of Ancient War. It just gave weapons to an army. I think it gave it to both sides. Watch them fight each other.
They all died.
And it loved it. It was like a rush of adrenaline for it.
It was cheering.
It's literally waiting for more people to come along so it can recreate that moment. Because it was like the moment that it was like most alive.
I love that they jam-packed this much cool story into these like quote-unquote below average cards.
Finally, not a Ghost Shintai. It's Katsumaza, the animator, right above Evra and below Kalain. 2 blue for a legendary creature, Moonfolk Artificer, 3/3. It has flying, pay 2 and a blue until end of turn. Target non-creature artifact you control becomes an artifact creature and gains flying. If it's not a vehicle, it has base power toughness 1/1 until end of turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 3 target non-creature artifacts. I think its design is super interesting, and I think there was a way to go with this, but they really just didn't push it. I just don't see why this ability can't be like one generic. You could literally make this ability one generic, and now we're talking about an interesting card. It's not broken. It's not OP. I don't think it's busted, but instead it's 3 for this ability, so it's extremely weak because the ability is just too expensive, rather.
This is my pick for most disappointing card, not for power. I don't really even care what the power ends up being. I just want an interesting design that makes me go, whoa, what if I tried that? Like, we're breaking new ground here, but it is so overcosted, and I just don't think it does enough at all for me to want to play this. I feel like you're not getting paid off in fun enough.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like if the card was pushed a little more power-wise, even just to take it to a 3 or a 4 power. Then this card starts getting fun because even though it's niche, it's powerful, but it's not even that. So we're at this weak power. What do you think of the art?
Yeah, I think the art's good. He's got this cross-legged. I think he's doing something with his hands, and there's a bunch of little trinkets and stuff around him.
He's really talented. Like, people fight to train under.
Yeah, he was friends with Kaito.
He's mentored a bunch of people. Like, a bunch of people on the plane that you've met. Also, I can't remember her name.
Basically, every Blue Legend.
Yeah, every Blue Legend has trained under Katsumasa. Everyone's trained under it, but the story's not that cool. But she's really talented.
Yeah, for uniqueness, all this person has going for them is that they make non-creature artifacts into creatures.
Oh, you forgot. Oh, the only thing you didn't write down here is she is the one who put the Kami into the mech.
We'll get to that. There's a whole other story. A lot of these things are intertwined. Next, we get to move on to another cycle of lower-powered commanders. It's the Myogens. This is the one of Roaring Blades above Odric, the one nobody likes, and below Keleth, Sunmane Familiar, at 872. It's an 8-mana, 7/4, enters with an indestructible counter. All of the Myogen do if you cast them from your hand, which is the problem we'll get to, but you can remove it to deal 7 damage to 3 targets. So the big problem with all of the Myogens, they're fine in the 99. If you cast them, you get a pretty good effect on all of them. They're our commander. We have to grade them as commander, as the title of this series suggests. So you have to cast it, and it won't get an indestructible counter. Then you got to find a way to cast it from your hand again, and you're already 16 mana deep at that point, and then you get the first activation. So all of these powers are low. This one is a 1.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to talk about that again. Just know that the Myogens are going to get low power rankings regardless of how good they actually are.
Put them in the 99.
Put them in the 99. They're not meant to be commanders. You can have some fun with this. You can throw out a lot of damage. The coolest thing about these Myogens, honestly, and this is something, again, it applies to all of them, you can proliferate. I don't know why I can say proliferate the indestructible counter to get extra of these effects. And that is incredibly cool. It's actually something you could have done with the old ones.
But nobody really...
With the divinity counters. But
I feel like no one was mentioning that.
I never thought of it. I'm being completely honest. I never thought about it. That's something super interesting. And actually, I'll just give a shout out to Alex. Thanks, Alex, for mentioning that, because we didn't even think about that. And we talked about it in the other video.
It did impact this list, but just not right here. So the art, I think, is great. He's like got a volcano for a head, and he, for some reason, looks like Kozilek. I don't know. It's probably just an accident. Obviously, no, it is an accident. And for the lore, he's got these blades that if they stab you, you are restless forever, but you're like a super genius, and you can almost do whatever you want. But you'll never be satisfied.
You're never satisfied. You're driven. You're...
Right.
Basically, the embodiment of red mana. Exactly.
You'll start a business.
Extremely passionate, driven. In fact, you help others all the time, and you'll help them achieve their goals. But it won't. It'd be like if BZ right here just couldn't be satisfied, but he's helping me get to my goal of making Nitpicking Nerds awesome.
I like that. For the example, you just said the same thing.
Yeah, but it's like you. Like imagine it's you. You got stabbed by the sword. You're super driven, but you're just not satisfied anymore.
Oh, I'm satisfied. Don't worry. I got generous patrons backing me. I'm super satisfied. For the uniqueness. All the Myogen are pretty unique. They're like indestructible god legendary things. So there's a lot of coolness and uniqueness there. This one just kind of deals 3 damage, so it's lower. Or this one deals 7 damage, so it's lower.
Up next, we have Ketose, the Silent Spider, above Anya and below Dustin at 787. 3 blue-black legendary creature, human ninja 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, exile target card other than basic land from an opponent's graveyard. Search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of those cards with the same name as that card and exile them. That player shuffles. For as long as you control Ketose, you may play one of the exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color and cast it. The strength of this card obviously is not in a singleton format. We're not removing any combo pieces. We're just not going to be doing anything. If it's in the graveyard, it's already tough for them to get back. I don't know why we're going to be doing this. You can only cast 1, even if you could get 2 somehow. I don't like this card at all, and it's honestly just poopy power.
That's the problem, is you can't even flicker it, because you got to cast the card first, because as long as she's in play, then she's a new object, and it's not going to happen. It doesn't use the normal templating of you can cast it forever and spend mana. It's like, no, if she's in play, it's just a really weird card. The power's not there, so the fun is very limited because you're so restrained on what you can actually do. The art, though, a lot of these Kamigawa legends have alternate art that is just sick, completely insane, amazing. Yeah,
she's like doing the over the back thing. It's a look you've seen before. You've seen the over the back thing, but she looks really cool. She's just the silent spider, so she probably is a contortionist of some kind, I imagine.
She started as a scavenger, and then she was caught stealing, but She was hired by that person because no one else could get by the security. And they were like, what the heck? We want you working for us. And now she steals intellectual property, which I think is like one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
How do you steal intellectual property?
Like a secret formula. You know, she goes and steals the Krabby Patty formula. That's Mr. Krabs' IP.
Oh, man. Mr. Krabs would be screwed if Plankton hired Ketose.
Yeah, exactly. She's probably on the market. If SpongeBob takes place in Kamigawa.
So I want to say one last thing about this card. It's kind of unique, but it doesn't apply very much. One last thing. I don't know how this doesn't have Flash at all. It should 100% have Flash. This effect is best as an instant. So why are we putting it at Sorcery Speed?
Well, you know why it doesn't have Flash?
Why?
It's because it's not very flashy. Moving on up, we got Goro, Disciple of Ryusei, at 766, above Anafenza the Foremost and below Nazan. 1 in red for a 2/2 Goblin Samurai. You can pay red to give all your creatures haste until end of turn. You can pay 3 red to make a 5/5 red Dragon Spirit with flying, but only if you are attacking with a modified creature. This is a little deceptive. I really care about the first ability more than the second ability. That's kind of gravy you sprinkle on top afterwards, but I'm interested in giving my guys haste for red.
Yeah, and that's totally fine, but again, you're in mono red here, and haste is not a hard thing to find. It's like putting it on your commander is cool and all, but like where are you going with this? What is your theme? Modified haste?
You got to make a bunch of mana to get those 5/5s too, so
it's a lot of mana.
Power's like below average. The fun I think is average though, because there's a thing to do. There's an achievement. I can make a bunch of 5/5s. It might happen. I think the art, little confusing. Good art. I just can't tell what's happening, so you lose some points.
Yeah, agreed.
You love this lore.
The lore is great. It's a huge fan of Ryusei. It literally follows around the new dragon.
Atsushi, who's reincarnated. Ryusei.
Atsushi, all the dragons, if you don't know, are reincarnations of the old spirit dragons.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, Ryusei is no longer around, but he's running around following Atsushi, basically calling her Ryusei and giving her gifts, and completely annoys her. Like, she gets so annoyed with him. The only reason she doesn't kill him is because the gifts are decent.
The gifts are basically slightly worth it.
They're good enough that she doesn't kill him.
Right. And all the words on this card, other than the word modified, are things we've seen before, so the uniqueness is low.
Up next is the Myogen of Towering Might, above Rayov and below Gerard. At 716, the area code for Buffalo.
Heyo.
5, green for, the Myogen again. We're back to these Myogens. He's an 8/8, and removing that indestructible counter on this one will let you distribute 8 counters however you want, and all the creatures that get counters have trample. So the biggest struggle with every single Myogen is getting it into your hand. Now in green, we have lots of ways to tutor up lands. So what that means is that we can go get Command Beacon. Mm-hmm. And as soon as we play Command Beacon, get this to our hand to actually start our game plan. Now this still costs 8. It's still not even that great when you do it, but it is that much better. Also, green, this is a counters deck, and proliferation is already a thing we mentioned that can be cool with this. So on both sides, it gets a little boost. It's still only 1 point better than the last one, but it is slightly better.
Yeah, if someone's playing a Towering Might Myogen deck, I'm like kind of worried about it because I know that they're not going to be spending 8 and then 8. They're just going to get it, cast it for 8, and then proliferate and get like a ridiculous amount of counters. So there's stuff to do. This one is my favorite by far. I think the art, totally medium. That's probably what's holding this back. The lore, also medium. He just kind of like lurks in the forest. Nobody sees him. Nobody hears from him. And he lets nature run its course. He's like a deistic Myogen.
But he's going to come back soon.
Oh, yeah. They hear he's going to come back. Great.
Yeah, and it's same uniqueness as the last one.
Let's move on to Setsuki, the Living Lore, at 708, above Orcus and below Gorex. Green-white for a 1/3, taps to put a lore counter on each of your sagas at sorcery speed, and when it dies, you choose up to 1. You can return a saga you have in play to your hand, or return one from your graveyard to your hand.
Sagas aren't very good in Commander, so this isn't very good in Commander. It's just a 1 for power.
Yeah, if you talk to me in like 5 years, and this is somehow not replaced with a better saga commander, and we've got a bunch of other sagas, we'll readjust the power. For now, it's just super low. But sagas can be fun. There's a lot of stuff to do with proliferating and removing the counters and just like keep getting the triggers. So the sagas will make this deck fun more than the commander. And the art, you got another fantastic promo. We're showing all the best arts. We're not showing, we're showing the best of the options.
Not a promo technically. It isn't alternate art, but similar to a promo.
Yeah, I don't know what to call them. I just keep saying promos. Variant.
You ready for the most ironic thing in the whole set?
Oh, maybe it's a joke.
This is Suzuki, the Living Lore, and she has no lore.
Only legend in the set to have no lore. I think maybe they just missed it, and they had a little blurb written, and they just didn't send it out, but she has no lore, so she gets a 2.
It's like a meme. It's like...
That sounds like a meme.
The Living Lore has no lore.
Like, what about her? I don't know.
Her lore is everything.
Ugh. Kamigawa's lore is my lore. And she got 8 for uniqueness because no one cares about sagas except for her.
Yeah, I mean, this is very unique. And again, if sagas got better and it became more actually relevant, this is a card that could rank higher. It's like, there's like you said, in 10 years, there's tons of good sagas everywhere. Okay, this goes up in power. I mean, the uniqueness is going to go up, especially if they don't make a new one, because like now it's super relevant.
And if there's sagas that now bring her back, that is actually, you're starting loops, and that would also bring her power up.
Elspeth Conquers Death does bring her back.
If there's sagas that bring her back more quickly than that.
Next, we have Kotori, Pilot Prodigy, above Siona and below Myogen of Night's Reach, 704. 1 white blue for a legendary creature, Moonfolk Pilot. 2/4. Vehicles you control have crew 2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target artifact creature you control gains lifelink and vigilance until end of turn. The whole idea here is that she can crew any vehicle you have, literally every single one, and pretty much all your creatures are going to be able to crew except your 1-power ones.
Yeah, she's a decent card, but I think what holds her back is vehicles are just not designed for Commander almost ever, and I think they're all pretty below power of what we actually would need for a Commander deck. I think the fun aspect, and there's a lot of stuff you could do, so the fun is high, but the power is like below average.
Yeah, and first, okay, she's bonded with the mech Sorikai,
right?
Which is cool and all that, and like it's a kami in a mech, and they're bonded like on an emotional level, and they like run away because Kotori's like killed that other kami.
Yeah, somebody ordered Sorikai to kill a kami. He's like, no, I don't want to, and then they're like, we can't control the mech, and she's like, no, we don't want to deal with that.
No, Kotori did. Kotori ordered her mech to do it, and the mech itself is what refused. It refused to do it.
I feel like that would cause a rift between them, but I guess it just didn't.
It didn't. Well, I mean, I think it's more like she understands why and supports the kami, and she's like, okay. But then they left because they're like, we don't want people to like rebel against us.
This art has caused a debate between us.
This art is fine. If BZ really thinks it has a big head, it's not like great art, but
I think her head is ginormous is the word I would use, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't know what's going on. The rest of the art fits together, and then it's just like her face, and it looks like it's photoshopped in. I don't know. It's really, really, really weird for me.
Tell me if her head's big. I don't think her head is big at all.
If I had to describe this artwork, I would describe it as off-putting.
Also, another thing about the lore for 1 second. Oh my goodness, I am so sick of the Prodigy.
The Anakin Skywalker.
It doesn't matter if it's a pilot. It doesn't matter what they're a Prodigy in. Prodigy is such an overused thing in just media.
The whiz kid, kind of like.
There's everything. It's like no matter what it is, there's a Prodigy for it. It's like, I don't need a Prodigy for everything.
Who was the one actor? He played Reed Richards in the new Fantastic Four. Whoever that actor is always plays the whiz kid and everything.
Yeah, the drummer.
He was in Whiplash, and he was in that poker movie. But since she deals with vehicles, and that's pretty rare, she got a 6 for uniqueness. All right, how about Norika Yamazaki, the poet? She's above Savine and below Rebek at 668 overall. 2 and white for a 3/2 vigilance, and when a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you can cast an enchantment card from your graveyard this turn. This is an uncommon. It's not blowing anybody's socks off for power. I think since you're recasting enchantments, there's some stuff to be had. There's some fun to be had there. This is kind of a card with very few text on it. Very few texts on it.
It's also a card that could be more interesting if it's in more colors, but it's mono white enchantments, which is real narrow. It's just the narrowness just kind of bites down the fun. It's like there's like 10 really good white enchantments, and that's like, well, I'm playing all those. Now what else are you playing after that?
But that art, though.
Both of those arts are very good. So the Yamazaki.
Both of those?
Both of these arts, the Yamazakis. You didn't even let me finish my sentence. You're acting like I didn't.
Well, you should have mentioned that there's 2 Yamazakis first.
Both of the arts for the Yamazaki cousins, which I think is sweet because they're both from the brothers line. They're on the opposite sides, like part of the family tree. The Yamazaki cousins, they have themselves in the art, and then the background is there's like a little image of the cousin, and it's really cool looking.
Kind of like those 70s photos where it's like close up of their face next to full body pose. Those are pretty silly, but this one actually just looks insanely good. Now the cousins, unfortunately, are on like opposite sides of this. There's a conflict, which we haven't gotten to yet, I guess, between the Imperials and these Asari uprisers trying to usurp the Imperials because they want to give power back to the people, which doesn't even seem like that bad of a cause, but they're like the bad guys. So they're uprising, but these guys are on opposite sides, so they have to clash and they literally fight each other. And I think we don't really know what happens at the end.
I mean, maybe the purpose of that story is like neither side is necessarily right or wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I know the Wanderer is not the bad guy, and I know that this doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, fighting for it's an uprising. Maybe they're what's the word? When some extreme, when you become
Extremists?
well, when you become an extremist, you became radicalized.
Zealot?
Radical. I found the word. You don't need to add more. Radicalized. And for unique, it's like a white reanimate thing. It's just not super relevant because you need to throw your commander into combat. It's like how long can you sneak through this 3/2?
I mean, there's other warriors is probably the type you're going to use the most. It's still just the upside's not that high.
All right, moving on, we have Rasona Asari Commander. Above Rutha, below Akroma. 1 white-red for a 3/3 legendary creature, human samurai. She has haste. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, put an indestructible counter on here. Whenever an opponent deals combat damage to you, remove an indestructible counter from her. This is a 1 for power. This is clearly not designed for Commander. You have 3 opponents. They're going to easily sneak through that hit on you. It's just going to happen all the time. 1 little flyer, and all of a sudden, she's not indestructible anymore. Cool design for other formats, not for this one.
I think the challenge of keeping the indestructible counter and trying to do other stuff with it is where the fun comes in. That she's a 5, like, oh, maybe I want to proliferate and put multiple indestructible counters on her. Maybe I want to use nesting grounds to move the indestructible counter from her onto somewhere else and then just keep doing that every turn.
Yeah, the nesting grounds thing is really cool.
That's awesome.
I think that's a cool interaction, but I don't think, other than that, it's like there's not too crazy much to do with her. She's not, again, just not designed for Commander. Sometimes, I know most Legends are designed for Commander nowadays. This one just seemingly isn't.
This and Ketose, like, not even close, which is fine. I have absolutely no issue with that.
But we're ranking, it is a potential Commander. We're ranking it as Commander. 10 for art, another one of these insane alternate arts that just looks beautiful.
She's the leader of the aforementioned uprising, and she's going to overthrow the Imperials, leave the people in charge. Currently, after all is said and done, they lose, and she's in prison.
No, I thought you said there was no outcome.
No, there was no outcome between the fight between the sisters, the one we talked about, who was the Imperial General, and the other one who was with the Resistance. I don't know what happens there, but I do know that the Resistance loses.
No, okay. I didn't know that. The rebels lose in this one. This is no Star Wars.
No, if they had the Wandering Emperor, if they had all the main characters, they would win, but nobody who's rooting for Rasona. I like the indestructible counter. I think it's pretty unique, but there's just literally nothing else here.
What are you supposed to... Again, we listed like the 2 things you can do with it, and that's really all you can do with it.
All right, this is one of the best legends in the set. It's the goodest boy in the set for sure. Yoshimaru, ever faithful at 6'11", above Egon, God of Death, and below Sir Conrad, the Grim. White for a 1/1. Whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you get a +1/+1 counter on Yoshimaru and his partner. This is the only commander with partner from either set, and we gave it a +1 for power as a result because you get a whole nother commander to pair along with this. And I think I actually I don't hate the 1 for, it's definitely not a 0 for power, but I like that legendary lands also just give you a free counter.
Yeah, this character's just pretty weak. I mean, there's a lot of good partners out there, and yeah, it's the dog in there, and the idea of the card is really cool. It's based on like an old Japanese. It's something that happened where a dog just waited at its owner's grave for years.
It's the saddest thing ever.
It's really, really, really sad. It's also the same. The dog from Futurama, also same thing.
Yeah, all in the same category. all in the same sadness category. For fun, I think there's a lot of stuff to do. I want to try to maybe go through the tons of partners at this point to see. And I know Rayhan Last of the Abzan comes to mind because she both cares about counters. And there's a lot of counters that are going to be on Yoshimaru. So I'm excited to see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm not super interested in this card personally. It's one of those cards where it's like, love the cute dog, but I don't see what I get it. Throw a bunch of legendary deck. That is the idea, but it's like, I don't like it. It's definitely not for me. We know the lore was that he waited for the Wanderer's return because they were best friends. They grew up together, and then she all of a sudden just kind of phased away, which we'll get to. And he was so sad, and he was just waiting for her return. And obviously she did return, so I'm sure there was a happy reunion.
Well, yeah, but you forgot to mention that when the Wanderer as a child first became Emperor, the fox
Light Paws
gave her the dog
to basically teach her how to be responsible,
take care of this dog, and you'll learn how to take care of the people.
And she was happy because she could tell it all the Imperial secrets that she couldn't tell anyone else.
Yeah, so she got the dog, and that's I love that lore. It's a 10 out of 10, super faithful dog that the Wanderer just takes care of and always waits for the return because she can't control her planeswalking. Up next is the Myogen of Grim Betrayal. Above, Phage the Untouchable. Below, Max the Daredevil at 608. This one's 5 black for a 5/2. And removing this indestructible counter will allow you to return all creatures put in graveyards this turn from anywhere from the graveyard to the battlefield. I really like this card, and I think all you have to do is follow up with a board wipe. Again, the weakness of this card is 8 mana, and the fact that you have to get it into your hand to get that indestructible counter.
Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what you got to do. You just play the usual mono black aristocrat crew. Your Yawgmoths, your Viscer Seers, all that, Midnight Reaper, and friends. Then you play Altar of Dementia, and you sacrifice your entire team to mill either yourself or everybody equal to whatever your power was. Then you activate this and just go ham sandwich. You're going to win.
Yeah, I think it has the ability to put you in great positions and win you games. The weakness just relies on the Myogen text.
Yeah.
Where this is the original Myogens weren't designed to be your commander, and these were purposely made this way, so they're not great commanders, but they're good in the 99.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a... This is probably the second easiest one, because I think you have Netherborn Altar. There might be a few weird cards like that that make you pay life and put it in your hand. So
Black also has...
Second most castable, and tutors.
I mean, you just have regular tutors.
Demonic Tutor still goes and finds Command Beacon, just like Sylvan's Crying.
Yeah, realistically, this is just as easy as the other Myogen, but it's neither here nor there. It's still a huge hoop to jump through to get this thing going.
Yes, there is 4 6s in a row, fittingly, for the black Myogen. The art is totally normal. I think it's just slightly above average. The lore is that it granted somebody's wish to be emperor. He wanted to just crush all his enemies. And the Myogen's like, yeah, sure. But he didn't tell him that. He said, yeah, sure, to 10 other people. And it literally caused the Dark Ages in Kamigawa, called the Shattered States era.
Yeah, it's really bored. That was really boring for me. It's just got him.
Bruce Almighty.
You can be emperor. You can be emperor. You can be emperor. It's I don't know. It's kind of cool.
I like that the result was the most terrible time on the plane's history.
I mean, it just seems...
This Myogen was just yeah, whatever.
Got him.
Let's get to Heiko Yamazaki, the general, at 596 above Agar, the Freezing Flame, and below Krond, the Dawn Clad. This is 3 in a red for a 3/3 trample. Same samurai or warrior clause as her cousin, except you get to cast an artifact from your graveyard. Kind of amounts to the same thing, except artifacts are a little bit better than enchantments.
Yeah, I mean, a significant amount. I think it is worth a whole PowerPoint, the difference between artifacts and enchantments, but it's mono red, so there is a slight weakness there.
It's the same reward for build around fun. The artwork is still absolutely fantastic. The story is the exact same, except she's the cousin on the side of the Asari Uprisers, and she loses. And the uniqueness, it's the same card.
The one thing we didn't mention about the other Yamazaki is that they were great friends during childhood, and then a tragic event happened that is an unnamed tragic event. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they said it.
An unnamed tragic event, and they end up on the opposite sides of the war.
Which is also a trope that's been done many times.
Moving on to Kaima, the Fractured Calm, above Kamal, Fist of Krosa, and below Silas Wren at 577. 2 red, green for a legendary creature, Spirit 3/3. At the beginning of your end step, goad each creature your opponents control that's enchanted by an aura you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on Kaima, the Fractured Calm, for each creature goaded this way. The weakness of this card is there's just not many things to put on your opponent's stuff. The idea is put a Rancor on your opponent's thing, put some enchantments, but then the issue amounts to when my commander's gone, all I've done is help my opponent at this point.
And it's almost a mandatory that before you start all this fun stuff, which is fun when you pull it off, but the power's low, because I have to basically have an Enchantress in play, or else my spells are gone, and I'm going to be empty-handed with no benefit on turn 5.
Yeah, and that's just the main issue with this card. I think it's a very cool card. I think it's extremely fun. I like the goad aspect. I like suiting up my opponent's cards. I think that's a unique idea, and it really is something that I would like to try and do, but you just have to realize it's not a strong thing to try and do, because you're using your resources to make your opponent's stuff better. And yeah, I get it. When you're goading them, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But if your commander dies, you're not going to be goading them.
Yeah, the art is fine. I'm never a big fan of boars. I think even when drawn perfectly, they just don't look good to me. I don't know. It's just the animal. I'm sorry to all boars out there.
That's a really random thing. Bonded with Tsuhiro, the guy with the broken sword. They're both in the same precon, so
he'll be around.
You can see that. He gets separated from Tsuhiro, so this boar's I'm going on a rampage, and they reunite. And he's like, hey, calm down there, boy.
Yeah, I don't really get it. I think everyone in this set is very forgiving of heinous acts. That's probably a common theme. Time for another Myogen. This one is Cryptic Dreams, above Narfi, below Sapling of Kolfanor, ranking in overall at 563. It's 5 blue for a 3/3. This indestructible counter is going to copy a permanent spell you control 3 times. So if you cast a Wormcoil Engine, you get 4 total Wormcoil Engines.
Yeah, that's a lot of Wormcoil Engines. I like this card, but ultimately it's a 3/3 for 8 mana that you got to jump through the same hoops as before. Super fun. It's a 6 for fun. I mean, the reason it's not super fun is it's so hard to do. If you get to the point of doing it, I think it's a 10 for fun.
Right. Most of the funds are, 5 points for you, 5 points for the other table. How are they going to feel about it? And they're not going to have any problems with this. Part of the problem is you aren't going to get to do the fun thing all the time.
When you do it, it's amazing. It's going to feel so cool to make like whatever big, stupid, do Consecrated Sphinx, do whatever big blue creature you can. Super cool, but getting there is really hard.
Oh, yeah. The art is medium. It's mostly clouds. If you like clouds, you're going to love this. But I like extra bonus point for the one mirror that's like laughing. He's like,
Yeah, actually, this lore is incredible.
It's good.
I really like this. He goes into people's dreams, only appears in reflective surfaces, and tells them an idea that no one on the plane has thought of before. And there's infinite of them for every idea that hasn't been thought of, which is super cool.
yeah, all of his reflections.
All of his reflections, and they all look slightly different, so no one actually knows what he looks like. And on top of all that, some of the funniest stuff about this whole thing is that how cryptic can the dream be? He's just telling them ideas like, cryptic dream, jetpack, make the jetpack.
Yeah.
How cryptic is that?
I don't know. I mean, some of the simple, like the early people on probably had the toughest time because they hadn't thought of any ideas. So there's so many ideas that they could have thought of that were just completely useless. Like, the first guy who's like a farmer, hunter-gatherer, they're like, jetpack squirrels. And he's like, what are either of those things?
Yeah, if you like, he's used an idea that's so far removed.
Yeah, the reality chip. What?
No, I'm not the reality chip. We're hunting squirrels right now for food with pointy sticks.
Right.
Next, we have Grease Fang, Okiba Boss, above Kolfanor, the last you, and below Darien. 1 white-black legendary creature, rat pilot, 4/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. The main issue with this, again, just falls to the same problem as before, where vehicles just aren't very strong. The ability is strong. Mm-hmm. Like, and if it was doing maybe some other type and if vehicle, this is one just like the lore guy for the sagas, where vehicles continue to get better and they hit a point where it's like, there are so many good vehicles now. This card goes up in power because it is doing a strong effect.
Yeah, where's the Sarah Ascendant of vehicles? Where's the Necropotence of vehicles? They just don't exist. They're all like right here in the same level. Even if you live the dream and hit Perhelion on turn 3, you hit somebody for 13 and they're like, oh, okay. And then it's back in your hand and you have to like try to do it again.
And you could probably do it again, and that's all cool if you can get it going, but it's not that simple.
Right, you're really not paid off by that much. But boy, is it fun to try. I like the art for this. It's really, the rat I think I remember is small and he's got like a giant wrench. She has a giant wrench.
She has a giant wrench. Grease Fang is a woman, and I don't know why, and other people might remember this. The alternate art reminds me of, I can't remember the name, the female chipmunk
from Chippendale?
Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Do with that what you
does
will.
Anybody else remember that? I can't remember. Somebody tell me her name in the comments.
You looked it up and you still can't remember.
I did, and I know that the fat rat who loves cheese is Monterey Jack. Mm-hmm. I remember that specifically.
Yeah, well, the lore.
Oh, they're not even chipmunks. They're rats, I think. The other two.
Okay, well, the actual lore for this is that she's a rat boss. The gang members are her family, and when I was summarizing it, I was like, is she just Vin Diesel?
I guess
my family, my rat family.
Oh, she is. I forgot about that. You did say that.
As soon as you join her gang, like your family.
Yeah, she is the Vin Diesel of Kamigawa.
Right, terrible actor, terrible. The 4 for uniqueness comes from vehicles. That's about it.
Once we can apply these things to something really good, like good vehicles, then we can do it. But until then, 4.
Now we're moving on to Myogen of Blooming Dawn. This is the white one above Sengir the Dark Baron and below Dragon Lord Dramoka, sitting at 550. 5 white for a 4/6. Remove an indestructible counter from it to make a 1/1 for each permanent you control. This is probably one of the worst power-wise, and it gets other points for lore and art and all that stuff that pushes it above the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very powerful. You have to have some payoff in play already.
Yeah, 21 ones isn't that good.
Like, 21 ones is all right, and you're going to start running away with the game if you pay it off after that. The other ones don't really require that. It's like, do the thing, execute the game plan, you're in good shape. This one is like, execute the game plan, plus have something else. Now we're in good shape. Like, oh, I had Ketho's Crusade out. All right, how am I going to lose now?
Yeah, but this is hard to set up. Pretty fun. Artwork is the best of the Myogens. I love everything about this one. This one is the lore. You can only see it from a distance. It leaves blooming flowers and all this stuff in its wake, and it rings little bells. which I like. I like that.
Oh, this Myogen's art is great. I really like this one. Actually, the same artist who did this one did Cryptic Dreams, and the clouds look exactly the same on both of them. Because, I mean, artists have style.
Yeah.
And, the clouds are very stylized to the same exact way. I thought was really funny to look at. But, yeah, I also love this thing. It's like, it literally only stays in the distance. People never really see it. It's like, you've only ever seen it at a distance. But as it moves through, like, a field, it grows flowers around it. That's so cool.
And it's the embodiment of hope.
Moving forward, we have Shurikai Genesis Engine. Above, Hamman. And below, Halana and Elena, partners. 453. 4 blue-white for a legendary artifact creature vehicle. It's an 8/8, and it has crew 8, which is ridiculous. Pay 1, tap, draw 2, then discard a card. When you do, you create a 1/1 pilot that can crew 2 bigger than its power.
You know what? I might change my vote to this one being the most disappointing. I just kind of feel like when you're designing for commander only, you can push the stats on a vehicle that can be your commander so far, and they pushed it. This is like worse than a standard card.
The issue is this is crew 8. That's
Why?
really, really high, and I understand. Yeah, it only takes like 2 activations to really get this crewable because the 1/1's crew for 3. You only need 3 of them to really get there, and it's like, but it's so much, and it's a vanilla 8/8. This doesn't fly. This doesn't have vigilance. This doesn't have lifelink. This doesn't have any keywords. It's vanilla.
I think the power level of the card ends up being fine. I'm just really disappointed with the execution of it. My vehicle that I have to put all this effort into crewing has a good tap ability, so it just like you're not going to be able to use the ability and actually attack with it. You're not rewarded for attacking with it. This is I think is bad design overall as a card, but the card is functional, and I think the deck is fun when you build it.
Yeah, I think this card should have vigilance. Like,
It's just nitpicking on our part.
Well, I don't even think it's nitpicking. I think this card actively should have vigilance. You have to go through all these hoops of getting it to the crew point. It's a lot of crew. You have to start making the guys and get there, or you have to have a big creature, and then you're tapping your big creature to put it in this vehicle. Give it vigilance so I can attack, and then I can catalog afterward. Or I can attack and then block with my unit. Give me some function, a little bit more.
Here's the problem. Even if I get up enough pilots to crew this, I'm still just going to activate the ability.
It's
That's
better.
what they didn't balance it.
Yeah, the attack is nothing. It's so hard to sneak through an 8/8.
Right, and tap half your team. But yeah, there's other categories besides power and fun. The artwork, it's a little tough for me to tell what's going on, and this does not look like an efficiently designed mech. The legs are like toothpicks, and then it's got the thickest thighs on any Magic card.
Yeah, we talked about the lore before. It's kind of the exact same thing as before. Mech bonded with a person. Kotori. Those two are,
running away. They're
running away together. Yep. I don't know what they're doing, but they're out there living their life, Iron Giant style.
Oh, it is Iron Giant. Maybe that's what they were going for. What's the kid's name? Hogarth is the kid's name. It's even remotely real.
Normal human name.
Yeah. The uniqueness is all in on vehicles and cataloging, and the pilots not seen anywhere else.
Well, it's all about the fact that this is 100% the only vehicle that can be your commander.
Right, it's not a creature. Ryu Storms Edge is up next. It's above Jalira, Master Polymorphist, and below Rubinia Soul Singer at 409. This is 2 red-white for a 3/3 first strike, and it has the attacking Samurai or Warrior's Clause, which gives an extra combat, and it untaps the creature that attacked. Basically, this just amounts to, hey, when you attack with this thing, you get a whole extra combat, and it's got some ability on it, but you want to give it more, which I think leads to a decent power level.
It's kind of fun. You can get extra combat. I'm not a big fan of this card. I get it. You have to suit up the whatever's attacking alone. You have to suit it up and make that attack big. Then your next attack, you can send whatever you want. I still don't like it. I think it's so janky that I get extra combat if I only attack with one thing. I don't like the idea.
I think that because it's a commander, you don't need anything else. Like will just kill people about the same amount of time.
It's an absolute 10 for art. It's really, really stellar art. Though I want to point out, this character changed skin colors in between arts.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Somebody didn't communicate.
Clearly, maybe I'm mistaken. This just looks like a black character, and this is very much a white character.
Who knows what happened? The uniqueness, there's not a lot of this extra combat thing floating around, so I like that it's on here. Oh yeah, and for the lore, he was cornered with his buddies on a hill, I think, and didn't really have anything going on for him, but he unsheaths his sword, got struck by lightning somehow, and then absorbed the power of the lightning, kicked the crap out of everybody who was trying to kill him, and then he was a hero.
All right, now we have Shigeki, Jukai, Visionary, right above Jadzi And right below, Sliver Queen at 402. 1 in the green for a 1/3. Pay 1 in the green, tap him. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put a land from among them onto the battlefield, tap, and the rest into your graveyard. Channel, which means you discard this card for this ability. Return X non-legendary permanents from your graveyard to your hand. This ultimately amounts to a whole lot of wheel spinning. It's not going to get you anywhere fast. In fact, it's going to get you there really, really slow. But it will ramp you eventually. It's not literally nothing. It's like a 2 for power.
There's not a lot of commanders that can ramp you over and over. Like, there's a bunch of ones that care about lands, but not too many of them actually go and find them for you. So there's a little bit of uniqueness there. Well, a lot of it, as you see in the end of the little strip, the ribbon of the points we gave it. I think there's a lot of fun to be had just because there's a lot to do. It's not great, but there's a lot to do.
You're ramping. It's a lot. You just keep ramping and ramping and ramping, and that's a fun strategy. I like that you can get any land. It doesn't have to be basics here, so you can ramp into some, big, cool, powerful lands, get a Nykthos off it. You're in mono green. It's going to be great.
Well, one thing about this card is it's just not going to die either. You choose when it dies when you discard it, and then you just put it back to the command zone.
Yeah, so this is one of those cards that takes advantage of Concordant Crossroads, which just needs a reprint for the... I don't know how that card is not getting reprinted. I understand. You don't want to print Enchant Worlds. You print Secret Layers all the time, Wizards. How is Concordant Crossroads not in a Secret Layer yet?
Printed up Peel Away Golf Course Plains.
Yeah, but we can't get Concordant Crossroads. The art, great. Just another one of these alternate arts that looks stellar.
His story paints him out as like some kind of visionary. I hate this guy. He seems like the biggest jerk in the world. He had a vision of like a potential technological apocalypse. So now he hates technology and he actively goes and seeks it out and destroys it, including like centers for technology where people try to like learn and study things. This dude's basically a terrorist.
He's what's his name from Fight Club?
What?
That guy's
Meatloaf?
No, the domestic terrorist. The main character, Tyler Durden.
Oh, I didn't really think of him as a terrorist. But anyway.
What the whole movie's about domestic terrorism.
Okay. I thought it was, domestic terrorism. Like, okay, now that Joe's filled me in on the happenings of Fight Club, which I haven't seen in like half a decade, this guy is a freaking loser.
Tyler Durden.
Don't think that he's cool.
Tyler Durden's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And channel, usually a crappy ability to have on your commander, but this puts itself back into your hand, making it an actual functional ability. Straight up 10 for uniqueness. I love that they give us a way to have a channel commander. If you want to do the ability channel, now you can have it in your command zone.
Continuing upwards on the list, we got Ishin, 2 heavens as 1, ranking 385 overall, above Vorel of the Hull Clade and below Strephon, Maurer Progenitor. Red, white, black for a 3/4. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it triggers again. Anything that says, whenever this creature attacks, whenever a creature attacks, any permanent will trigger twice. It's basically the same ability as Wolfgar of Icewind Dale.
It's not basically, it is, other than Icewind Dale.
He's got some extra bonus.
He has some bonus attacks. This is the exact same power as that. You get an extra color, which is going to give you access to more cards, obviously, for the pool. So there's more cards in Mardu than there is in green-red for attacking.
I mean, any 2 of the Mardu colors are better attacking than green-red, I think. For, like, you attack and get something right away.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is the 5 for power. It's pretty strong, for sure.
Which means it's fun. I mean, strong cards give you things to do, which is, unless it's oppressive, this one is not at all, just fun.
I mean, this is a classic go-to double blank.
Double a thing. They've been starting to just double. They're like, what if we double tokens? What if we double spells? What if we double attack triggers? They're just thinking eventually they're going to run out of things as a double, and that's when they make new things and then double them.
Well, these aren't even double. This is one additional time, but if you're only...
Which happens to be doubling.
Which happens to be doubling in this case, yeah. That is true. Art, amazing. It's another one of these just really, really good alternate arts. Can't get enough of them.
Yeah, super stylized. Love it. His story... He works for the Asari Uprisers. He was doing odd jobs, and now he fights alongside them. This guy had way less story than I thought. 2 heavens as 1. I'm like, whoa, what the heck is that? Nothing.
Apparently, it is just...
That's his really long last name.
Just 2 heavens as 1 is all it's supposed to be hyphenated.
He has, what is it? He has 4 parents, and it's 4 last names that are all hyphenated.
Oh, good thing that one of his parents was named 2. As and 1. I mean, Heavens sounds like it could potentially be a last name, but 2 as and 1 just...
No, it's Heavens.
Okay. For uniqueness, it's like a 5. Mardu attacks commanders. It's very common. There's a lot of commanders that care about...
Got the one line.
Getting in the red zone. But it's a pretty good commander. We're on to Tsuhiro, the Shattered Blade, right above Grand Arbiter Augustin IV and below Zerda at 369.
Nice.
2 red-green legendary creature, Snake Samurai 4/4. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with Menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. The most powerful thing on this card is that first ability. All of your auras and all of your equipment that you're casting are going to turn into creatures to use auras and equipment on. You can you can sack these to stuff. You can do a lot with these creatures that gives you just extra bodies just for playing the cards you were going to have in your deck anyway.
Yeah, the Menace is a nice little cherry on top, so I think it's definitely deserving of a 5 power. You get immediate value with the 2/2s. I mean, you're probably going to want to cast this with a follow-up. And then you can go the auras route, you can go the equipment route, which just leads to a lot of options, which is why this fun is like through the roof.
Yeah, exactly. And what I really like is that it puts counters on modified creatures. So this works extra well with equipments. Equipments have the ability to re-equip in other places. So what you do is you equip it, get a +1/+1 counter. Now that's a modified creature forever because it has a +1/+1 counter. And move the equipment next turn to an unmodified creature. And you can just, the +1 counter guy's going to get it. The new equip guy's going to get it. This works so well. I'm a huge fan of this card. For fun, I think it's easily a 10. You can go auras, you can go equipment, you can even just go counters with this if you really want to.
It's true. You just forget about the first ability if you want to. I like the art. It's kind of average. We kind of got just some snake guy with a sword. It's nothing I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's fine. He's got a broken sword too. It's cool that his blade is like magically held together.
Yeah, his story's pretty tame. He's unwilling to risk the lives of others after the incident with his blade being shattered and the kami running around, and now he defends small villages.
Woo! You go, dude.
I mean, he's unique. He makes 2/2 menace tokens when you play auras, and it's a red-green card. Like, this is not something you see anywhere.
Yeah, modification is just kind of its own thing, and that's unique because we haven't seen this before.
Let's go on to Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa, sitting at 356 above Tago and below Kithian. 3 and a white for a 3/3 legendary spirit with flying and flash. When it enters the battlefield, another target permanent is indestructible for as long as you control Kyodai, and you can pay Wooburg for whatever reason to give this thing +5/+5. I think that's more of a flavor and color accessibility ability, and you should probably never activate it.
He's the Soul of Kamigawa. It makes sense that he is 5 colors.
Right, it's the soul of the world. So this is like an okay card. It really is just like a restoration angel, but it's permanent. I don't really know how else to say it.
It protects one creature or one permanent for a little bit. It's fine. It's not very powerful. It just isn't a powerful card overall. For fun, I'm just not sure what you're supposed to do with it. It's like a 5. You can play a Wooburg deck. You can put some stuff in it. You get some value out of this, especially it's one of those commanders where it reminds you of like Avacyn, where you want to hold it up at all times, so you want lots of instants and lots of ways to give your stuff flash.
It's pretty sick with Helm of the Host. You just they make each other indestructible, like after you make enough, and it's like, how are you going to get rid of these?
Another one of these insane art. He looks like he's gold and he's like dripping. He looks super sweet.
He's got the drip.
He's got the drip. He's got that gold drip.
For lore, this is an easy 10. I thought this was like a newer character. This goes way back to the original Kamigawa story. That which was taken, which is the thing that Kanda took to start the entire Kami War, that was Kyodai. And he trapped it in a statue, which is why it's an artifact. And Kyodai is basically the daughter spawn of Okagachi, who's like the jerk head kami. This goes on forever. Basically, when we get to the war, Kyodai partners with Michiko, who's Kanda's daughter, to take down Kanda and Okagachi. They kill Kanda, and then they fight Okagachi, and they cut off all of its heads except for 2. Then they shrink it down to size, and each one of them bites off one of the last 2 heads.
Why do they bite off the heads?
Because they're savages. I have no idea. They're amazing. Now it's still around today, and it helped the Wanderer find Kamigawa and come back for a while, and that's pretty much it, except for one cool thing. Back in like the Future Sight era, I think it was Leshrac, some evil planeswalker, tried to planeswalk to Kamigawa, and the sisters, which is Kyodai and Michiko, just like showed up and were like, "No, you can't come here." It was sweet.
All right, that is
cool.
It
was like on his way there.
Solid 10. Yeah, that is a really cool story. Why did they bite off the head? We shrunk him down
right
to bite off his head. Why is that even necessary?
It's like, let's make sure he's gone.
For uniqueness, there's nothing crazy here. It's the indestructible thing is relatively. It reminds me of Phylactery Lich. Remember
Oh, man,
Phylactery Lich?
Kind of does.
Here we have the first of the 5 Dragon Spirit cycles. It's Kyrie, the Swirling Sky. You might know her from Kingdom Hearts.
Where she did nothing ever.
Yeah, she was just there as a love interest. 298 above Aura and below Winota. 4 blue legendary creature Dragon Spirit 6/6. Flying Ward 3. When it dies, choose 1. Return any number of target non-land permanents with total mana value 6 or less to their owner's hands. Or mill 6 cards, then return up to 2 instants and or sorceries from your graveyard to your hand. This is one of the weaker of the dragon family that we're going to get to, all these spirits, but it's still pretty good. Both dice triggers give you different things. They can help protect you, bounce stuff, get it off the board and out of your way, or you can just get you card advantage when it dies. 6/6. It's also a little hard to remove because Ward is really annoying.
It's going to help keep it on the battlefield for longer. And also the dice trigger is going to help keep it on the battlefield for longer. I don't think people really want to kill this too much, which kind of just gives you a weird 6/6 beater. But as long as you can control when it dies, then you've got the complete package. You can just do whatever you want. Dominate the skies, and then when it's time, kill it, recast it, do whatever you need to do. Pretty fun. Not the most fun you can have just because the ability like to bounce things is
6 flying adds up really quick though, so it's a pretty nice beater. 3 hits and you're like, all right, that needs to stop because
if you pump it, it's 3 hits, you're out.
Yeah, exactly. So this card is super solid there. It's kind of fun. This isn't anything for uniqueness. I'll let you know. Isn't anything we haven't seen in blue, but the dying, like all the abilities together, it's like nothing we've seen it all before. But putting it together into one card feels unique.
It definitely feels a lot different. And as far as art goes, I think all these dragons are slam dunk 10s. There might be 1/9, but they're all fantastic. They're amazing. I mean, Wizards going to put a ton of work into making these look amazing.
Yeah, the Dragon Spirits look absolutely awesome. I love, again, it's this alternative art style if they want one for the set. Chef's kiss, very, very good.
Super sick. So the lore, which is a 7 out of 10. Kyrie is the reincarnation of Kaiga, the Tide Star. Adawara sought him out after he was reincarnated because he was killed in the Kami War. He declined, and now he spends his time exploring and learning new secrets. So one of the weaker lores, but he does get bonus points for being a reincarnated dragon Kami.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Gotta keep climbing. It's Ghost Shintai of Life's Origin above Alrund and below Bergi, and sandwiched between 2 Kaldheim gods at 287. 3 and a green for a legendary 3/4 shrine. Pay Wooburg and tap it to return an enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. When it or another non-token shrine enters the battlefield under your control, you get a 1/1 colorless shrine enchantment creature token. It's a bunch of words. You're either playing 5 color shrines and you're going ham sandwich with the second ability, or you're taking advantage of the first ability. Maybe you're playing some kind of enchantress deck and like entombing omniscience, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really strong once you get the ball rolling, but it's a slow ball to get rolling. The shrine side, like, you can just play enchantments like BZ said, but the shrine side is really strong.
At least gives you a shrine when it enters too. So
you get 2 shrines, and then you play a shrine. You have 4 shrines, and all the shrines, when you start triggering them 4 times, they start getting really crazy, really, really quickly. And they're going to get out of hand. Like, this, once the snowball gets rolling with this deck, you're going to get out of control really fast. 10 for fun. I think the Shrine deck is just completely a 10 out of 10 for fun. It's unique and different from basically anything else you're going to be doing in Commander.
Any 5-color blank deck is probably going to be pretty fun. Usually the fill-in is like, allies, slivers. Like, it's always something crazy, and it's great. The art...
Weird.
I wish I would have had something better. It's just kind of like coming out of the ground. You got to stare at this thing for 5 minutes to have any idea what's going on. It's got like 2 flower eyes and a flower mouth.
Yeah, it looks weird, and you got to like look for where the shrine is. It's like hidden somewhere on there. It's just a strange card art. I mean, it's good, but I just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for lore, the dust of dead kami settled on a shrine and became a new kami that grows stronger as it combines with the remains of other dead kami. It's like walking around the plane looking for dead kami, like, hey, you want to come in? And they're like, yeah, let's go. And I have no idea what's going on.
Somebody want to explain to me anything about what? So it's a kamis are spirits.
They're from a different. So as far as I know, they're from like a different world. It's not even like the traditional spirits. It's just like a different race of thing.
So
like they can just die.
They can just die.
Yeah, they're like little wispy things that they're not the spirit of anything. They just were born as just a kami and then they die.
They gather dust.
They disintegrated into dust.
And then the dust.
Well, that's how some of them have specifically died. Like somebody disintegrated them into dust.
The dust and the dust gives the new one power. I
think these shrines have got some power because they like fell on a shrine and then the shrine like grew a new kami.
This is so weird. It's like, how can I ever follow the rules of this at all?
It's unique.
Time for the second of the Spirit Dragon, Junjie, the Midnight Sky, 272 above Ukima and below Kodama of the East Tree. 3 black for a 5/5 Flying Menace.
A flying menace.
When it dies, we get 2 options. The first one is for each opponent to discard 2 cards and lose 2 life, and the other is for us to lose 2 life and reanimate a creature from any graveyard that's not a dragon.
This is my favorite one of the 5. It's not even close. I think this card's super sweet. I think it's up there with the strongest in terms of power. It's like right at the top, maybe with one or 2 others. It's a solid 6. I mean, when it dies, it's a 6 for 1. That's like the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and this is one you're always going to put in your graveyard. I think a lot of these dragons, especially the white and the black ones specifically because those are the reanimation colors, are just going to be put in your graveyard.
Yeah.
And you're going to reanimate them pretty often. Though I will say the dragons are fairly costed, so you really you can put them back in your command zone actually once or twice without feeling too bad.
Yeah, it's like, oh, geez, how brutal is it when I play Junjie, sack it, and then reanimate it and then sack it? It's like you all discard 4 cards and you lose 4 life.
Yeah, not exactly fun. I think
that's what keeps this card down, man. I'm bummed out because I love this one, but yeah, the fun is definitely hurting.
I mean, it's not. I mean, discarding those cards is not fun at all. It's not.
Second mode's fine for fun. It's just like neutral, but the first one is like, eesh.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of like a tax effect where it's like, it's just making my opponents play less Magic, which isn't going to be fun for them.
Right. Maybe the game will end really quickly, but this is a 10 for art. Obviously, I love the pink spirit flowers. Junjie is a reincarnation of Kakusho. He died defending Takanuma from the Oni after the Kami War, so he didn't die when most of the other dragons died. Afterwards, he distanced himself after the reincarnation. He's like, yeah, screw it. Fend for yourselves. I don't want to do anything to do with it. And he lives in the Tawashi Undercity, where he kind of like deters people from doing anything too bad.
Yeah, and for uniqueness, it's like a 5. We've seen it all before, but again, what keeps it unique is it's all in this one package.
Time for Hitotsugu, Devouring Chaos, above Niv Mizzet the Fire Mine and below Grist the Hunger Tide at 245. 3 to black for a 4/4. Legendary Ogre Demon. Black, sacrifice a creature, scry 2. 2 in a red, tap, exile the top card of your library. You can play it this turn. When you do, he deals damage equal to its mana value to any target. It's a little bit of card draw, kind of expensive, but mostly it's like a pretty solid sack outlet that scries 2, so I think this ends up at a 6 for power.
Yeah, both the abilities are super solid. You can get card advantage from one. It's a nice sack outlet to get you some scries to get into the cards that you need. Overall, great. I think it's a super fun card. I think that I like this idea of this style of you want to build with both a high CMC so that you can hit people for a lot of damage, but also it's tough because it's a 3-mana activated ability, so it can't cost too much. You kind of have to balance out. It's like you want to hit a 4-drop because, like, okay, I can see having 7 mana reliably.
Sure.
Now, so you want to hit 4 and 5 drops to do max damage and play the biggest thing off your top.
Or you give him Death Touch and you don't care what you hit and try to untap him maybe. I like that the first ability feeds right into the second ability also. You're like, all right, end of turn, scry 6 basically. So I find the best card, which I'm putting second from the top, draw, now I'm going to cast it and get the best value.
I find it super weird that it specifically says if you hit a non-land, then you can hit something.
Right, you don't want to... We can't have him hit for 0.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. 10 for art. This has a ton of different arts.
There's like 7 variants in this card.
This is the one that's like the lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Like you can get a super ultra rare version of it.
Neon outline, red, blue, yellow, green.
Yeah, but the original one that's not outlined
is purple.
And it looks way better than the other ones. It's so much cooler.
And then the original one that is just normal is orange. So you get the whole spectrum. His lore, he's an old character back from the originals. And he's
Heartless.
Basically not even in the story at all. But he worshipped the all-consuming Oni of Chaos, which had a plan to, like, do some evil crap. Who really cares, right? I mean, that's not even a character. Its plan failed, so this guy traveled to the spirit realm and ate it and absorbed his power and became, like, the most fearsome demon in the wherever. And currently he's trapped in the spirit realm by Kyodai doing nothing.
I think my favorite part is that he ate the spirit to gain his powers. And basically, he's been alive literally since the Kami War.
Yeah.
He's super old at this point. But all the other, like, demons and stuff want to eat him.
He's got a target on his back.
Like, they don't... But it specifically said they want to eat him.
And absorb, like, his mojo.
Yeah, not anything else. Like, they use the word devour, but they don't just want to go find him, kill him, and take his power. No, they want to eat him.
They need to eat his body.
It's very specific. All right, now we got Light Paws, Emperor's Voice, at 204 above Blim and below Eudora. 1 in the white for a 2/2. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield, if it was cast, search your library for an aura with equal or lesser mana cost, put it onto the battlefield, attached to Light Paws, and shuffle your library. This card is powerful. When you get an 8 in mono white, you know you're doing something right. It gets equal mana cost for starters. That's always the best wording, when you can get the equal. A lot of times this is lesser. No, get one equal to it. So if you cast a 1, you're getting a 1. so many auras, even in white. Say draw a card like Angel's Wings, like give it flying, draw a card, go get something else, put it on.
Maybe draw another card.
I think this card is incredibly strong. It's going to be one of the premier white commanders going forward. I think it's very, very good.
Yeah, you can get to the point where you're like Voltroning her up and just beating people to death, or just protecting all of your creatures at once. Like if you give your things flash, now they have no idea what they could ever predict. If you're flashing some aura onto another creature to save it, and then Light Paws just gets a bonus. Throw a Spectral Ward on here, and then it goes and finds Mantle of the Ancients, which goes and gets all the other auras, and now you're just dead in one hit. This card is super good. I feel like a lot of the more powerful commanders from this set maybe are a little bit unexpected, like this one.
Yeah, I think this card is super fun, but I think the main issue is it's a lot of tutors. So it's a 7 for fun because I think you're going to see a lot of repetitive gameplay from this card.
I mean, and just killing people in one hit.
Yeah, and that too. It's just this is such a good card, and the tutor over and over and over again. There's always your best targets, and you're going to hit those more often than not. So it's going to be so repetitive.
Yeah, it's Unquestioned Authority. Okay, well, they're going to go get, they have Spirit Mantle, Unquestioned Authority, and Spectral Ward for their unblockables. And then they have this for their Protect, Benevolent Blessing, Timely Ward. It's just probably going to get a little stale. But I think this is a sick one. I really like the art on the alternate version where she looks more youthful.
Yeah, it's a great character. I mean, she's not even that youthful, though, because
she's an older character, but I meant in the art she looks younger.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a youthful character because they were an adult character when the Wanderer was a child. So when the Wanderer is older,
they might have been a young adult, and then the Wanderer, and then they aged to where she's probably the equivalent of 50 now or something, and the Wanderer is a 20, 30 something. So she's the acting emperor now that the Wanderer planeswalked away to who knows where. She was the right hand woman. I think Light Paws seems all right. She was a character in the story. Pretty big role.
Yeah, she also gave her the puppy.
Oh, and she gave her Yoshimaru. I mean, that's probably where half those 5 points come from.
Yeah, and auras isn't a super unique thing, but this tutoring side of it and the way it works of putting them directly on the Light Paws on the battlefield is completely unique.
Let's take a trip over to the West Tree. We got a Kodama. It's above Yarok and below Alicia at 191. It's 2 and a green for a 3/3. All your modified creatures have trample, and whenever a modified creature you control hits a player, you get to search for a basic and put it into play tapped, no strings attached. Not once per turn, not once per player, just as many things hit. That's how many lands you get.
It's just again, this is an 8, another super strong and powerful.
You can start getting stuff on turn 3.
Absolutely, it's so crazy. If you play a creature that enters with counters on turn 2, like you said, turn 3 play this, boom, start beating in. It gives trample. This card is great, works on so many levels. I just don't see how this can't be fun. It's one of those things where it's maybe it's not perfect, because you're just doing counters, mono green. But who's not having fun? It's I'm just making big, stupid buff creatures and attacking you for lands.
It doesn't prevent magic from being played. It doesn't cause any repetition like Light Paws would, or Junjie makes them discard their hand. This is just kind of wholesome magic. I'm putting basic lands into play here. Don't go too crazy on hating it.
Which art do you like more, the alternate spirit art, or do you like the I kind of just like the original. I think it's really good.
I think the original is just rock solid, and it just ended up being a 9.
Yeah, it's a really good art. It's just solid 9. It's a violent spirit.
I wouldn't expect that.
It kills people and protects the forest. Screw you, people, and kills it, and then buries them in the ground and plants trees over their body.
I mean, it actively patrols the outskirts of the forest, looking for people to kill who are infringing on the land. It's jeez.
It's a big jerk.
This thing just looked like a normal tree. What is protecting the tree? It's no, it's a murderer.
Murder tree.
It's a serial killer tree.
Murder tree. Third of our dragon buddies here is at Sushi, the Blazing Sky. 176 above Pelokrinos and below Phoenix. 2 characters from Theros. 2 red for a 4/4 Flampler. We got the death trigger, get to choose one of them. The first one is to impulse draw twice, which means you exile the 2 top cards, and then you can play them until the end of your next turn. And the second one is you get 3 treasures. These are solidly strong cards. Another 5. 5 and up is a good commander. I want to say that. If that's not clear, anything that's getting at least a 5 is a good commander. It's got things going on.
Yeah, the way our list kind of skews the 4s and the 5s, the 3 to 6 is really what almost everything you're going to see. The 1s and 2s are crap, and the 9s and 10s are competitive, crazy stuff. So like 4 or 5 is probably about the average, like 4.5 maybe.
Yeah, this card it's just a strong card. The treasures is like an unheard of thing. Dying into 3 treasures,
it's a lot.
It pays for its first tax. I always thought that was kind of cool. Where
yeah, you attack with Atsushi, it costs 6, but it's really only like it costs 3 because you just made 3 treasures.
Yeah, exactly. I really like Atsushi. It's a totally awesome card. I like cloning this card a lot. I love
Goldspan Dragoning.
There's a lot of the like Shadow Flame Conjuring type cards where when you go to combat you get an extra copy of this. And usually they're legends and that wouldn't be good. But it really works out well here because we don't care that it's a legend. We'll take the dies, we'll get the impulse draw, we'll get the treasures. I think you can do a lot with that, and that's where all the fun's going to come from on this card.
I think this card can go infinite. I don't know the loops, but we know the ways with Zorn and the Goldspan Dragon and all this other stuff to make extra treasures and turn it into things. If this thing just loops over and over somehow, you just win. You just have infinite. Yeah, you do. You have infinite treasures, and then you draw your whole deck.
Yeah, you're gonna if you can infinitely loop this, yeah, you absolutely will be winning. 10 for the art. This is another one of those amazing dragon spirits. I don't know, whatever they did for all the dragon spirits is stuff. I mean, the art for this set, especially the alternative art, is amazing. And these dragons are like, oh my god, they're so cool.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
She's the reincarnation of Ryusei, and Ryusei never even died during the Kami War or any of the conflicts, but they just kind of chose reincarnation with the others. We'll get to why that happened. She's kind of happy-go-lucky and just fun, and is just like a goofball, but has a little temper.
Well, I mean,
the obligatory red card temper, like, oh, cool.
She hasn't even killed. She definitely wants to kill Goro, but doesn't.
Right, maybe that's the Ryusei talking.
She annoys the crap.
Reverse. He annoys the crap out of her.
He annoys the crap out of her, which I think is so.
He's a fanboy.
It's so funny.
Yeah, it's great. And for uniqueness, I think the dies into 3 treasures thing is what. Just because we've seen treasures before, not like this though. I think it's definitely something interesting.
Dies in the impulse draw also fairly unique.
Flame Skull is the only card I can think of that does that.
I mean, and that's not a legend.
It's not a legend. All right, here we go. The headliner villain. Here he is. It's Jingataxius, Progress Tyrant. I really like what he's sandwiched in between. We got Urza, Lord High Artificer below him, and we got Chief Jim Hopper from Stranger Things, seasons 1 through 3, above Jingataxius.
Well, what's really funny is this like Urza is like Magic the Gathering's character, like super original, and Jim Hopper is from that show on Netflix.
A product.
It's like what a hilarious meeting.
Whenever you cast an instant artifact or sorcery spell, you copy it. You can choose new targets for the copy, but it only triggers once each turn. And whenever an opponent tries to cast an instant artifact or sorcery spell, you counter it, but that ability only triggers once per turn. So both of those have potential to happen 4 times a go around if you get the maximum value out of it. You want to be casting a bunch of flash spells, holding up counter spells. This is going to be real miserable to play against. But in terms of power, it's a 7.
Oh, it's very powerful. Even though it's a 7-mana card, we can get immediate value out of this by Gitaxian Probing. Lots of 0-mana spells. Waiting until we have 1 or 2 extra mana to get like an extra Ponder effect or something along those lines.
Mishra's Bauble?
Yeah, exactly. Mishra's Bauble is going to work. Urza's Bauble going to work great. Urza apparently is all over this card.
Urza knows what's up. He's right below him. This is an insane artwork. I love Jingataxius. I love all the Praetors. I mean, they're amazing. They always look super BA, and they're not gonna get messed up by anybody except, I guess, the Wanderer. But I really like the thing about this card that I really like is it's an actual really good reanimate target because you save so much mana and you get to hold up all this interaction and basically just dominate. I feel like that's how half of the games where this is in 99 are going to end. It's like, well, you can cast Jin. It's like, okay, we can team up and kill it. I'll get my spell counter, then someone else can cast a spell and kill him. But it's like if you're holding up counter magic and you reanimate this for 1 mana, ugh.
Also, you didn't even mention how unfun this card is. I
said it's miserable to play against and just kind of like,
yeah, I kind of moved
it says
quick.
Counter your spells. Like, it's not going to be fun. For lore, I mean, this is an easy 10. I don't even have to read the story for Neon Dynasty. He was already a 10. But guess what? He's still a 10. He completes Tamiyo into a Phyrexian Planeswalker, which is one of the coolest sentences I've ever said, using the reality chip with help from Tezzeret and the Tameshi guy we haven't gotten to yet. And then he kills Tameshi, and he actually got like messed up by the Wanderer. Like, like she chopped him in half.
Dang,
she like cut him in half to the point where he like wasn't functional, and Tezzeret like took his body back to New Phyrexia, and now he's fine.
Dang, how did the Wanderer just use? She got the move. What is the?
It's just a like anime slash thing.
But it's the card. There's a card. It's banishing
slash.
Slash, yeah. No, not banishing slash. There's a card from.
I thought that was the War of the Spark, like, sorcery.
It's actually the Wanderer's Strike from War of the Spark, where that's what she's doing. She's doing that to Jin-Gataxias.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that, that Kaya couldn't do anything to Vorinclex. But Wanderer's like, no, let me just, like, almost kill you. And Tezzeret's like, well, thank goodness I was here.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like, it depends on what you specialize in. Like, the Wanderer's a good fighter, and maybe she can, and she's used to technology. She lives,
It's true.
Her plane is filled with technology. She can probably face him. It's like, Kaya fights Ghost. It's like, Phyrexian is nothing like a Ghost.
That's true. What's actually so cool about that card is I think it deals 4. The card it's represented on deals 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, and Jin's a 5/5. So, like, almost kills him, which is what happens in the story. Like, it's pretty cool. As far as uniqueness goes, it's copying artifact spells, which is, they're exploring it more. They love doing things twice, but this has not been done too many times before, especially not almost anything you do gets doubled. Almost anything they do gets cut in half.
Yeah, it's copying instant sorceries is completely so blue it hurts, and that's what really brings us down in uniqueness. The other side is fairly unique. It's reminiscent of like the stupid flip thing that's banned,
Arayo.
It might even be a reference to that because it is in Kamigawa potentially, at least a little bit,
maybe.
But regardless, that side I feel that side's pretty unique, and then the other side, like, yeah, you add an artifact, but it's like, this is the most blue thing I've ever read.
It's like how Vorinclex was like the most green thing. I want to know what these guys are up to, man. And they got the Tyrite juice from the tree, and they got the reality ship. They can complete planeswalkers now.
They're definitely trying to take over the multiverse. It's like, what is their overall plan is the real question.
Right. I would struggle to wonder how they can't at this point.
Hey, look, it's the aforementioned reality chip. Above Finn and below Gisa, Glorious Resurrector at 115. 1 in the blue for a legendary creature, artifact, equipment, jellyfish. It's an 0/4, and you can look at the top card of your library at any time. Pay 2 and a blue to reconfigure it, which means you can attach it to a creature, and then you can play the top card of your library. So this is a 3 for power. What I like is you can keep doing it over and over again. Once you get it on, it requires the chip to be directly answered, which can be annoying. I mean, it's going to be easy to answer when it's a creature. Creatures are the easiest type to kill, but if you get it onto a creature, it's a little harder. It is an artifact. And yeah, there's removal for artifacts, but it's less than creature.
Yeah, Future Sight's not really anything mind-blowing, the effect of it. So it's sitting at a 3, but I think it's pretty fun. There's a lot of, making your hand essentially bigger, and also adding a randomness factor just kind of ups the fun. This is not miserable to play against. The art, I like the alternate art, even though the first one is so good. It's like a flash drive with little tentacles.
Yeah, it's a USB drive.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's kind of like a chip. It reminds me of actually one of those like, what do they call the fuse? I think it's a fuse with like the old fuses like with 2 prongs. You remember those? You'd have to change them in like old school boxes.
You're older than me.
Yeah.
Your age is showing.
My age is showing. Yeah, you guys know. It's on screen. You guys know the fuses I'm talking about.
The reality chip's lore way deeper than I thought. I thought it was a chip on Kamigawa that they stuck in Tamiyo and the Wanderer, but no, it was originally prototyped by Tezzeret, like during Shards of Alara era. Like that's when they kind of retconned this to happen. And then he tried using the prototype version on Kyodai on Kamigawa 10 plus years before this happened, and that was right around the time that Tamiyo's son was losing his parents, and we'll get to that when we talk about Tamiyo's son, but somehow this is all connected. And then 10 plus years later, when we're present day, it completed Tamiyo, and it temporarily stabilized the Wanderer's planeswalking, and this thing seems like the most typical MacGuffin in the entire world, because the thing that it does is we don't know what it does.
It's alive?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's alive, but it's more like it is alive. It is a creature. It is a thing. But
probably like a goldfish. It's not like experiencing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What is it doing? Like yeah, that was my curiosity. Is it just kind of doing things, or is it thinking?
That's probably not thinking.
This is a 10 for uniqueness. This is the only reconfigure. It's a jellyfish equipment. I mean,
artifact creature. Just,
I mean, there's no, and this is like one of the few. There's a few cards. There's a few commanders that let you play at the top of your library, but none that just let you play everything.
It's the first dragon I get to read. It's Ow, the Dawn Sky, above Selvala, Heart of the Wilds, and below Zakama at 107. We're getting up there. This is pretty high ranked. 3 white for a 5/4 flyer with vigilance. When it dies, you choose 1. You either look at the top 7 cards of your library, and you get non-land permanents with total mana value 4 or less onto the battlefield, or you put 2 +1/+1 counters on all your creatures and vehicles. It's got some beefy stats. It If you don't have a board, it dies into a tiny board. It starts rebuilding, and then if you have a board, it's just now huge.
It's not even necessarily a tiny board. I mean, if all your stuff costs 2 and 3, you can get 2, 3 permanents off the top. Easy.
Yeah, that's not super crazy, but it is a rebuilding.
It's great. It's great for rebuilding. If you don't have a lot of good things to put counters on, even you can just. It's not even rebuilding. It's just adding to your board. I like reanimating this. I like putting in the deck with Karmic Guide so I can get it back and just keep doing awesome things with it. I think AO is nice and powerful, and you want to get a bunch of things and go wide to put the counters on. And you want to rebuild. I think this card's great.
And with all the dragons, I think you should proactively have ways to sacrifice them. But this card's fun is through the roof, and the art, we don't need to talk about this. It's fantastic. It's on screen. You see it. It's amazing.
We do need to talk about it because they're so good. These are like the dragons. Like the dragons are personally like some of my favorite arts in the whole set. They're amazing. They're just.
It seems like you have short-term memory loss.
They're so. I want to just say it every time because they are so good.
At this point, they know. Let's reel it back for Kura.
They skipped. Well, for the people who skipped to AO because they were really interested in AO.
Yeah.
Now you know how much I love.
Don't
these
go
arts.
back. You won't like it. The lore. Ao is reincarnated version of Yosei, who has PTSD, literally, from getting ripped in half by Okagachi during the Kami War, and because of it, just refuses to protect Aiganjo, and he only intervenes when he sees like extreme injustice happening.
AO is a guy, or is it?
I don't know. I think you know what I'm thinking. Ao is a guy, so it's probably a female.
Okay.
Because whenever I think, every time I was guessing, I was just wrong.
I thought AO was a female for whatever reason in my head.
At least 2 of them are females. Atsushi's female. Junjie and Kyrie are definitely male. So I think
Kyrie's male? Kyrie sounds like a female name.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I was wrong.
Oh, okay. I mean, yep. We're terrible apparently with names.
I mean, genders of dragons who don't express gender in any way we can perceive. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. For uniqueness, again, this is it just reminds me all this has been seen before, except for maybe putting 2 counters in your whole team. That is a lot, but we've seen it all before. This is very white.
We've even seen you saying this before.
After AO is Tamashi, Reality Architect. Above Niv-Mizzet Reborn. Below 11, The Maid. 2 and a blue for a legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard 2/3. Whenever 1 or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This ability only triggers once each turn. X and a white, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Return target artifact or enchantment with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only as a sorcery. All right, this is solid for power. I really like what we're doing here. You're going to be able to get a card draw at least once each of your turns. If you start bouncing opponents on land permanents, it also allows you to draw cards. This gets on the board early. If you have a lot of cheap artifacts to like keep going back and forth with, it's going to feel great. I love how this interacts with like a terrain generator where you can keep putting extra lands into play. You probably want terrain generator and walking atlas in this deck. So you can throw all your lands on the battlefield and then you can return them as you need to get value.
Yeah, this thing is going to draw at least, let's say, 2 cards per turn cycle if you're building around it, and then just draw your card on your turn again because you're casting a spell for free, basically. It just goes into play. This is just doing a lot of things, and I'm wondering if down the road we'll want to bump this up past a 5, but for now it looks like a rock solid, like, kind of slightly above average 5.
Well, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I know these abilities are all good. How good are these abilities? I don't know.
Like, I think there was some CDH guys talking about this guy.
Yeah, it might potentially be stronger or better than what we think, but I think a 5 is a great starting place for it. 10 for fun.
It's fun.
Just going to be a super fun deck. You're going to be replaying stuff from your graveyard. You're going to be bouncing lands. You're going to be drawing cards. Probably bouncing some other opponent's stuff with some cards.
You can also readdress that if it turns out to be lame.
I think it'd be unlikely to be lame, but it's possible.
And then the art, it's just another amazing stellar one. We can move past it. But the lore, I'll just read exactly what I wrote. Friends with Kaito, but is a dirty guy who helped Jin get a hold of the reality chip. Then Jin kills him. I wrote it like a 5-year-old. He's a dirty guy.
He's a dirty guy.
They were friends for a long time. It turns out he had some shady dealings.
So Tamashi's just a big jerk?
I mean, officially probably the biggest sellout in the multiverse, right? I mean, I would just assume that a Phyrexian Planeswalker is now the most critical point in history of the universe. The multiverse. This guy's the biggest jerk ever.
No, the biggest jerk has to be someone who's still out to Bolas, right?
I don't know. You sell out to the Borg, basically, and I'm not going to look favorably on you.
Did he get... This feels like a classic moment where I didn't read the story, or at least not the whole thing, where he turned it over to Jin and then regretted it at some point, and had a slight redemption before his death.
I didn't think so when I was reading it. It just kind of looked like they were working together, and when Jin didn't need him anymore, he just killed him.
Well, Jin's a jerk.
Jin, even bigger jerk.
This is a huge unique card. 9 for uniqueness.
It's a huge card. It's so big.
I don't know why I said it that way. It's a very unique card, honestly. The bouncing things as like a draw ability is super unique. There's nothing like that. And you get to replay enchantments and artifacts on a blue-white card. This is a good card.
Let's go on to Kosei, Patient Warlord, all the way up at number 87 of all time, above Omnath, Locus of the Royal, and below Karamitra, God of Harvests. 1 green for a 0/5 Ogre Samurai. Huh? As long as Kosei Penitent Warlord is enchanted, equipped, and has a counter on it, Kosei has whenever Kosei Penitent Warlord deals combat damage to an opponent, you draw that many cards, and Kosei deals that much damage to each other opponent. So if you equip, enchant, and counterify this thing, it just doesn't even play like a green card anymore. You're dealing damage to everybody, non-combat damage, and drawing a bunch of cards.
Well, that's a green ability. I think of Hydra Omnivore.
Like kinda, but that feels like if you told me there's a card that deals damage to every opponent and draws you cards when it hits, I'm like blue-red.
Yeah, I mean it does. It's fairly green still. I get green vibes, but it's like a 4. Once you do the thing, it's incredibly strong.
It's sick,
but it's a lot to do. It obviously is a large hoop to jump through. When you get there, it's amazing. That's why it's a 10 for fun. This is just, if you just want to get this guy super suited up, powerful, and then get in the red zone.
Yeah, they didn't give you any free power. You got to work for all of it. They could have just made this a 5/5 with like Defender or something that can attack if it's got the things done. But no, they gave you 0 power, and they're like, you know what? Figure it out, and I'm ready to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna figure it out with the classic. Like one of the best equipments in Commander, Blade, Black Blade Reforged.
That'll figure him out real quick.
Yeah, he's gonna get real big or real quick with that.
Oh yeah. How about the art?
He's just sitting there, very
penitent.
He's waiting. I actually like his story quite a bit.
This is what I would expect to happen more.
He used to be like a warlord, and like he felt really like he felt bad. Like he just thought it was what you had to do. And then they raided a peaceful village, and he saw that there was a bunch of peaceful ogres. And he joined them and became a really patient dude who doesn't fight, only fights to defend.
But he actually approached them and was like, I'm sorry I destroyed all this stuff. Let me rebuild it. Let me fix what I broke. And I was like, that might be the most mature legendary creature I've ever seen.
That's what it's. Oh, Pentant.
Yeah, he's paying penance.
Yeah.
But we wrote patient. Because we just wrote it wrong.
You wrote it wrong.
We wrote it wrong together.
You can't tell me what I did.
It's Kosei Penitent Warlord.
Yeah, 10 for uniqueness. There's not a card like this at all.
You don't even look for it because it's not there.
Last but not least of the 5 dragon spirits is Kura, the Boundless Sky. Above Xyrus, below Kenrith, the Returned King, at number 79 overall. 3 green for a 4/4 flying death touch. For the death triggers on this one, we get to choose between searching a library for 3 lands and putting them into our hands, or making an XX spirit where X is the number of lands we control. I think almost all the power lies in the first one. Tutoring 3 lands on death is insanely.
It's a lot of lands.
Insanely powerful. I mean, this is really simple. One of the first lands you always get with this, if you're not a powerful deck, is you get Command Beacon. Okay, now I'll just replay it and I'll be getting some more lands. It's like, that's already crazy.
I mean, you can scale all the way up to, I'm going to just go get my Gaia's Cradle if you really want to. I mean,
I'm going to get my Nykthos as a mono green deck.
That's a very tame one that's still very good.
There's so many good lands to get with this card. I mean,
you cannot be mad. I mean, there is a slight tutor aspect, but it's lands. I mean, it's not going to be the game-ending sort of stuff that you see with the other cards. I think it's just a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
You lose 1 point for seeing Nykthos every game.
Yeah, exactly. The constant tutoring is what brings this down on fun, for sure. Kind of similar to Light Pause, but I think this one, lands can be less, oppressive than, if you've ever seen an aurored up creature that can't be touched, they exist. Yeah, and they're real unfun.
I had a whole deck based on it. It's actually coming up in Shuffle Scuffle if you are paying attention 2 months from now.
10 for the art, absolute chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. These dragons are awesome.
Yes, for the lore, it was resurrected by the Orochi, so it died in the Kami War, was resurrected by the Orochi independently as Jugon, then collected the essence of all the dragons to place in an egg because it noticed an imbalance in nature. So this is like the MVP hero of all of them. So the egg then hatched the 5 reincarnations of the dragons. So there wouldn't be a new Kaiga or Junjie or Ao without Kura, because Kura's the MVP. And I like the uniqueness. I like the option. Giant token is sometimes going to be useful, and 3 lands at once is almost unheard of on a legend, especially what we're really caring about is any land, not a basic.
The lands are always useful. This deck's going to take advantage of every explore, all these burgeoning.
Go find Boseiju, and now you have a removal spell off this thing?
Yeah, this card is very, very strong and definitely going to be a fun one to play.
All right, moving into the top 4 from the set. This is Hinata, Dawn Crowned, coming in at 74, above Lind and below Erebos, God of the Dead. 1 blue, red, white for a Kirin Spirit that's a 4/4 with Flample. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each target. Spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. I don't know if a lot of people expected this, but this card is a 9 out of 10. This is one of the highest power. We don't give out 9s. This is one of the highest power grades you can get.
Yeah, I mean, this card's completely bonkers. What is going on with this card? There are so many.
Think about it for a second.
There are so many cards where the X is the number of targets you get to do. Every single one of those is insane in this deck. You're going to have one-sided board wipes all over the place with this thing. Let's turn all their stuff into swines for 2 blue mana.
Your counter spells cost 1 less. Their counter spells, all their spot removal costs 1 more. It's just going to be tougher, slightly tougher to kill this thing. By force, Vandal Blast for 1 mana. Heliod's Intervention, one-sided or an artifact enchantment Plague Wind. There's X blue, 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 bounce X non-land permanents. Okay, all of them that aren't mine.
Yeah, how insane is 2 mana? Cyclonic Rift. It's Cyclonic Rift for 2 mana. This card is stupid. I think, honestly, we give it a 6 for fun. I could see it going lower to all the way down to a 5.
The lowest it could possibly be is a 5. I don't think it's quite there. We'll start with a 6 and reevaluate.
I mean, the card is just oppressive. And, the fact that it makes all of your opponent's stuff cost more is also super, super annoying.
You got to kill this thing immediately or you're screwed.
Yeah, and 10 for art, another one of those just sweet thumbs up alternative art.
As for lore, apparently this thing is really annoying, not only in play, but in the story. It annoys mortals, and some of the kami don't like it, but some of them are really big fans of shenanigans, and they support its antics. This card, Hinata, is literally called the One Who Bothers. I wish that was the name on the card.
It's probably, I imagine it's that's one of those phrasings One Who Bothers that probably has a really funny translation. In Japanese, it's probably funny how you say it. I imagine it's a 1-word thing.
Oh.
1 word for one who bothers. And it's probably actually really funny for it to be called that in Japanese.
How about the uniqueness? I mean, where have we seen any of this? Any even sliver of this card?
Flample? The thing that we have seen before is reducing spells, obviously.
In general, but not this way.
Yes, and also decreasing your opponent's life. It's the thing that comes closest to this, but still is pretty far off, is Grand Arbiter Augustin IV.
Yeah, it reads similarly, but doesn't play similarly at all.
I mean, it's stupid. This card, I think this, I wouldn't be surprised if this is one we come back to. It'll be the same rank, but it'll go down 1 fun and up 1 power.
Yeah, that could be it. Who knows?
Time to write some toads. We got Tatsunari above Osgir and below Heliod Suncrowned at 61. 2 and a black for a legendary creature, Human Ninja, 3/3. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, if you don't control a creature named Keme, create Keme, a legendary 3/3 black-green frog creature with, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. 1 Simic Hybrid, Tatsunari, and target frog you control can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with flying or reach. This is a 4 for power. It's not incredibly powerful, but I like that your first enchantment gets you something in the frog, and then after that, each enchantment is going to slowly be draining our opponents out. My favorite card for this deck is probably Mana Bloom. It's so cool.
Yeah, you just get to keep casting it over and over. This is insanely fun because the first question everyone asks is, how do I get more Kimis? And the answer is super easy. It's you mutate onto Kimi, and then it's not Kimi. It's Migratory Greathorn. So now Tatsunari is going to check and say, hey, do you have Kimi? No, I have a Migratory Greathorn. So it makes a Kimi. Now you have 2, and then you're going to stack all those enchantment drain triggers, and you just have to mutate again and again every time, and you get that many Kimis.
Yeah, exactly. So the key to this is what's the point of having a bunch of Kimis? You're just stupid 3/3 frogs. No, it's the drain ability. It's all those things stack very well. As soon as you hit 3 or 4, it's every time you cast an enchantment, drain for 4. Now we're getting into dangerous territories.
And the easy thing to do is you don't even have to worry about it. Once you get 1 Kimi that's a mutated creature, you don't have to cast enchantments or worry about Tatsunari as much. You can just clone this Kimi that's not Kimi and get a bunch of them.
Yeah, also you can also just start cloning.
Just write a replication, this bad boy.
Yeah, exactly. So you can get a ton of Kimis onto the board, and then, oh my God, once you get multiple Kimis, you're done. The game's over. You're gonna win.
Yeah, you cast 4 or 5 enchantments a turn. That's like draining for like 18 at least. You have 25. I don't know.
I wish. So for the tokens, the way they do tokens, for the original art they make the token. I wish the alternate art had a token because it is a silly, goofy token.
It's like a rainbow tongue.
It has it's like tongue coming out like over on the side, and it literally has like spit coming off it.
It's
like
real goofy.
It's super goofy looking. It looks nothing like a frog, and it's so silly.
Yeah, brace yourself, cherries. So Tatsunari is kind of just like, the way I view this dude is like a complete loser. Just wants to be in power, has not been in power, keeps failing miserably. So he's power hungry. He tried stealing Chishiro's sword, the snake we talked about. That's what this whole conflict comes in, where the calm Kami, whatever that thing's called, I forget, goes in and just goes on a rampage because they got separated. And then so he finds Kimi after that because he's trying to get a Kami, but he can't get a Kami because he's a failure. So he goes and finds a big frog, and he's like, this ought to show him. I got a big frog. Comes in, confronts Chishiro. Kimi dies.
Why?
Kimi dies.
Why'd they kill Kimi?
Because Chishiro was PO'd.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. As long as he can get another enchantment or can get another Kimi.
And I'll call you Kimi too.
He every time he finds a big toad, he calls him Kimi.
I like that he finds a big toad and he's like, all right, this is good. Surely a second big toad, right, would be even better. But he's like, no, I have to kill one of you. I can only have one of you. That your names have to be Kimi.
Yeah, I can only have only one Kimi at a time. Like, he's just traumatized. Like, he's so sad that Kimi died. It's like, yeah, you're Kimi. You've always been Kimi. And as far as uniqueness goes, pretty dang unique commander. It's Sultai, enchantments, frogs. I mean
this card has 65 words on it.
Isn't that already unique enough? Frogs.
Yeah, frogs, Kimi,
frogs,
Kimi. Okay. The second best commander in this set is Satoru Umezawa. Satoru is ranked number 56 overall, above Zinder Split and below Volrath the Shape Stealer. He's 1 blue-black for a 2/4 human ninja. Whenever you activate an ninjutsu ability, you get to anticipate. So you look at the top 3 and you take one, and then all the creatures in your hand have ninjutsu 2 blue-black.
Yeah, just be sure you can only activate this ability once per turn. They've been using that wording a lot, and honestly, I've heard complaints about it. I'm a fan. I think that it lets them make more fair and balanced cards.
Yeah, this one really strong. Because there's kind of like, there's the way that I know Joe's gonna build this card, which is like, let's have fun, sit down on a commander table. Then there's the way it's like, I'm gonna kill you. You're gonna get Blightsteeled so hard you can't stop it.
Yeah, the real gigantic things that you drop in with this are not fair. They're not fun, and they're gonna crush the crap out of you. And like, this card is powerful when you are putting in Void Windwire, when you're putting in,
I'm thinking like Razaketh,
Blightsteel Colossus, Razaketh, all of these insanely strong cards. Now you're just gonna go insane around with the game. You put in even like something you put in Kozilek, so it's like if you untap, guess what?
You're getting annihilated.
You got hit for 10 and then annihilation. I mean, the card is so strong in that way. Plus, I for fun, the fun all lost here is when people are going to be doing that, and that's the most common build you're going to see because that's what he enables.
It's the flashy thing to do.
But it's super fun as a ninjas commander, and putting in big stuff that isn't necessarily broken. Like, my plan is Shieldred. Jingataxis is really good. Like, that's probably the least fun kind of.
Yeah, Core Augur, not the new one.
The old Jingataxis. And I also am going to put in like Archon of Cruelty.
Like, ooh, that's a juicy trigger,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm not trying to break it, but I'm going to build it in a fun way because I think this commander is fun.
Yeah, and the original art is a complete 10. There's the Metal Gear art, which is a complete 10, and then there's the variant art, which is a complete 10. So there's just 10, 10, 10. Everything's 10s. And the uniqueness is super high because it gives non-ninjas ninjutsu. And then it cares about it and goes ahead and gives you a nice little trigger.
Yeah, exactly. It's providing you card advantage, making everything ninjas, paying off other ninjas, like the regular ninjas you have are getting paid off by this card. Super awesome. And it's Umezawa. I mean, obviously it's cool.
Here's the thing. That's what I thought. And then I went and checked. And he definitely lost some points because he just claims to be related to Umezawa, Toshiro. But nobody even knows. Nobody even knows this. He's just like, I'm related to him. And nobody wants to question him because they're like, I'm not going to confront that guy. So he gets some coolness, but not max coolness if he was actually like his great grandfather son.
Yeah, that's fair. Because the Umezawas are on Dominaria now.
Are they?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, but he could still
the Myogen of Night's Reach.
Yeah.
Sent the original Umezawa.
Because Toshiro is the mono black.
Toshiro is related to
The Grixis one.
The Grixis one,
Who
was sent there by
Myogen?
the Myogen of Knight's Reach.
Mm-hmm.
And then the relation, we know that there's the relation is the new one, the Tetsuo Umezawa. We know that one is related because it's on Dominaria.
And they are on Dominaria.
And they are on Dominaria.
Who the heck knows what's going on?
He probably he probably isn't related. There might not be any Umezawas on Dominaria anymore. Or on Kamigawa.
He's the leader of the Hyozan Reckoners. It's a gang. It's the fiercest gang ever. I care more about that first thing we were doing.
And last but not least, we have Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion. 49 overall of all commanders, right above Olivia and right below Nicol Bolas the Ravager. 1 black for a 3/2 legendary creature rat ninja. Whenever Nashi deals combat damage to an opponent, each player exiles the top card of their library. You may pay one of those by paying life equal to its mana cost rather than its mana cost. Also has ninjutsu for 3 and a black. Ninjutsu not super relevant on the card because we're talking about as commander. This is not commander ninjutsu, the dumb ability that nobody likes. It's just regular ninjutsu.
Thankfully, they did not bring that back for a second go. This is like way less powerful than some people were hyping it up to be. It's still a reasonable card. Despite the ninjutsu not working at all, you just play it on turn 3 and then you make it unblockable. That's not that difficult. Even people on turn 4 might not have a blocker and just smack them.
Yeah, and you get to play one of my favorite things you get to play is the old land Shizo.
Yeah.
And give it fear and just sneak through on a bunch of people. I like this card quite a bit. I think it is decently powerful. For fun, it's a 10. It's all about sneaking through those hits, playing cards for free. You got to have some life gain in here to get some of that life back to negate the loss because you can't just be casting spells for life every turn.
Yeah, you look at 4 cards and you get the best one, basically. It's I think that trigger is so overrated, but it's still good.
It's definitely good. It's not broken or anything. I think it's more fun than good for sure.
Yeah, and this art is amazing. I love his demeanor on the promo and just good stuff all around. The lore, I didn't know this guy has a ton of lore. So Tezzeret was looking with the reality chip prototype in Nashi's village when Nashi was a little kid, and he's like, "Where are the artifact?" They don't know. So Tezzeret just burns the village, kills Nashi's parents, I guess. And then Tamiyo adopted him right after that. And then he grew to love her family. He loves Tamiyo's stories, and he hopes to see the multiverse someday. And then Kaito's like, hey, Tamiyo just got freaking kidnapped by Tezzeret and Jin, and they just planeswalked away. I'm going to go look for him. And he goes looking for her on Kamigawa, but he doesn't know that she got completed, and she doesn't even care about him anymore.
He doesn't even know what completed is.
He doesn't even know what Phyrexians are. I mean, basically, he doesn't know that his mom is a robot who doesn't love him, which is, yikes.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
And I had made a little joke in a group chat about how, Nashi's going to be bouncing around the foster homes. He literally bounced around foster homes. He went through the foster system on Kamigawa.
I didn't know there was a foster system.
Me neither, but there is one.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I would assume most of that, if there's the society, there would be some sort of foster system.
Yeah, what are we going to do with all these rats whose parents died from Tezzeret? Trying to get the reality chip on Kyodai.
Yeah, for uniqueness, it's kind of it reminds me a lot of Atali. Very similar.
It's like if Atali and Bolas' Citadel had a little baby. And then they died because he has no parents.
All right, we're caught up again. All the commanders have been ranked again.
Thanks for staying around.
There was a full ranking of every single legend ever released. Go to the description and take a look. Find your favorite commander. Tell us where it is.
Absolutely.
You don't have to tell us. We know where it is.
At this point, if you were one of the people who watched during the original countdown, back when we were just going at it because there weren't new sets coming out and we just had to do the old ones, your commander has probably changed at least 50 rankings. So check it out.
Yeah, I really want to go back and at some point I want to do a stream where we sit down and with people in chat and we
update some of them, maybe get requests on who to look at.
There's definitely a lot of things that need to be updated. It's really tough to go back because it's 1,200 commanders or something.
Right, Get Rug Monster got a judge promo. It's okay. I remember we actively looked at that and all right, it's not a better artwork. But every time that someone gets a new artwork, is it better than the old one? Let's cross-reference and get the board out.
Yeah, I mean, I know Grand Arbiter Augustin IV got a better artwork as well.
Great. I mean, I'm looking forward to that because we are still planning on streaming at some point. Things just keep getting pushed back. I know that gameplay is this is the hypest thing and we're really focusing on that right now. But streaming is planned for the future. For
Yes.
sure.
So special shout outs to every single one of our patrons. Love you all as much as you can without making you uncomfortable. These are the people who choose to support the channel directly. If you'd like to become one of them, use the little link in the description, or you can type it in if you really want it. It's on the bottom of this card.
It's up to you. You can also do 2 different things that support yourself primarily, which I fully am respecting of, because you can go to the TCG Player affiliate link in the description, buy the Magic cards you want for no additional price, but when you start with the link, we get a kickback on the order. There's also DragonShield.com, the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Once you buy the custom or regular or playmats, however you want to go, once you buy that stuff, we get a kickback on that order. And it's not any extra money. You're just buying straight from the source.
All right, and for a tidbit about our lives, what do we got? I mean, this is recorded in 2 segments. See if you can find where the cut is.
Dare you.
It's in there. But I have been editing this already for like 6 hours, and I have another 6 hours ahead of me. This is this project takes so long to edit.
These are brutal, but in the best way. I mean, we obviously like doing it, or else we wouldn't do it. This is about 4.5 hours for me to script this. It's going to be another, maybe hour to do the thumbnails. So combined, it's like a day almost.
These ones take so long. These are so grindy.
The new sets have 50,000 commanders.
They have so many.
I remember back when we were doing like Throne of Eldraine and Ikoria, it's like, all right, we got a decent, 20 something. Like, all right, that's a nice chunk of a video. And it's like, no, 45. Go rank
45 commanders is an insane number. We're approaching 50 commanders in one set. That's so many commanders.
Jeez, give us a set with like 15. We won't be mad. Seriously.
I would like to let's cut back, but then I will be less hyped because I want cool commanders.
I mean, it's not like every one of these was cool. I could cut this down to 15 and be super hyped about it.
That's true. I mean, get rid of the living lore. She was the worst.
Get rid of the living lore. Get rid of the Myogens. Get rid of the Go Shintais.
I mean, no, the Myogens are awesome.
Get rid of the
They're awesome for the 99. I'm fine with the Myogens. Get rid of the Go Shintais. I don't give.
They're cool for the 99 of one deck.
One deck, and I don't care about them otherwise. But do we have anything else to say?
I think we're done here. We love you guys.
I'm sure we had a tidbit, but
this is it.
Well, no, I mean, I'm sure we had another tidbit that we forgot, like we always do.
Do you ever hate those people who are driving like maniacs out there? There it is.
Okay. Peace out, Tribe Scout.